I probably should have just thought this through. That would have been the wiser option, eh, Sash? It's all falling apart. The whole thing fell apart when I decided to make a grid. The greatest modern shotgun. What is the greatest modern shotgun is the question. And today we're going to maybe explore a few possibilities that could be the answer. The premise, or the real issue here, is what counts as modern. The dictionary definition for modern is modern, the adjective, relating to the present or recent times as opposed to the remote past. Depending on who you are and how old you are, modern will probably have slightly different meanings. My issue, I suppose, is that the modern era of shotguns, things haven't changed a great deal in the last 120 years. Not really. However, because that's not a fun game, we're going to look at the modern era as this millennium, the last 21 years.
It's got an on switch.
It's got what?
He's got an on switch.
Yeah, what for then?
So any list of guns, of greatest guns, has to have a matrix, and that matrix has to be composed of different factors. I think the matrix for the greatest gun ever, probably longevity, needs to be considered as a big, big factor. To be the greatest gun, modern shotgun, one would hope that the greatest modern shotguns of 100 years ago, they're all still around today. So definitely longevity needs to be on there. Value. Value for money, value. It needs to be of a relative value. You know, for example, the Purdy Damascus shotgun is a beautiful gun. Is it the greatest gun of the modern era? Probably not. Because it is unattainable in itself. It's a bit like saying that a Ferrari California is the greatest car of the modern era. I mean, it could be, and we could remove the value matrix, but we'll take it into consideration. We're going to bracket value because we're not going to look at any nice guns otherwise, are we? We're going to turn longevity into two subcategories, and that being strength and reliability. The strength meaning a gun that you can abuse, a gun that will take the toll of time and use. And reliability, a gun that needs to spend relatively little time in being serviced and or, you know, being broken. Availability. Availability. Is this a gun that is actually available? Not just something that is a bit of a pipe dream. I think that repairs are under reliability, aren't they, Sash? I think repairs are under reliability. I mean, it's a really simple matrix. Longevity, value, and availability. Attainability is probably a better one. Attainability. That kind of goes with value. But we'll chuck it on there anyway. And I think, quite probably, desirability is important as well. Desirable. Because the greatest modern shotgun couldn't be a bagel, for example, could it?
Bagel, bagel, bagel. You can indeed polish a turd.
Rules. 2000 onwards. And not too much homage. You don't want too much homage. Meaning, it can't be a gun that was made 2000 onwards with all of the technology and all of the patents of something from 100 years ago. This is going to be very difficult. I don't know. Maybe I don't. There might be some rules on homage because homage. Let's chuck a gun up. For example, the 6.86 doesn't count, does it? No, it doesn't count. You know why? Probably one of the greatest shotguns of all time if we had bracketed this 1960 onwards, but we didn't. So the 6.86 is out. 5.25. Out. 6.90. 7.25. Out and out. I mean, this is going to be a really long day. Both of these guns are essentially just these guns squished or manipulated into a slightly different style. So they don't count because there's too much homage. Okay, let's go home. No, there's nothing can be on this list, can it, Sash? I mean, if we were just going to do the top 5 greatest modern shotguns, the 6.86 and the 5.25 are of course on that list. So it's stupid to discount them from this game, but this makes it it doesn't make it an interesting game, does it? Because the 6.86 is one of the most reliable guns with the easiest gun system to repair, the first kind of clipped together shotgun of the modern era. It was just an amazing gun. The guns that were around in the 70s are still around today, working as hard as they ever did. To all intents and purposes, the internals have not changed a little bit, so every bit can still clip into them. They're an amazing gun. The 525, 130-year-old design, 122-year-old design, something like that. Changed a little bit, but not much. Both of these are the greatest modern shotguns, sort of, or they're definitely in the top 5. And their modern incarnations, well, they are kind of here. I think we could get away. The 694 is a little bit less homage. That is a funny old word to say like that, isn't it? Yeah, I think the 694 can go over on the right-hand side as a qualifier. It is as far from a 686 as a Beretta has got in the modern era that is as far from a 686 as a Beretta has got in the modern era. It will last, it's got a strong action, they're extremely reliable, so we've seen so far. They are relatively good value for money. You know, if you look at that mid to top range Sporter, the 694 actually represents a great value for money. They are extremely available. They are extremely attainable, and they're moderately desirable. They're a really good looking gun, and they're kind of taken that step away from these two a little bit, enough of a step away. So 694 is our first qualifier. Longthorn. Longthorn probably deserve to be on here. They have been made in the year 2000 onwards, I believe. What better formula could there be for making the ultimate shotgun, than to combine the very best of the modern world has to offer by way of material and technology with traditional methodology and classic English shotgun design? So I'm fairly confident that Longthorn has happened since the year 2000. How does the Longthorn fit into the Matrix? Longevity? Relatively good, you know. The barrels are designed to be the strongest barrels in the world. They park Range Rovers and stuff on top of them. That's pretty cool. All of the material is made of the best material out. They are an engineer's dream. Value. They are not cheap. I mean, their new box lock is 15 grand. Their other guns start at about 25 grand. £25,000 is not cheap. However, they do represent good value when you look at the rest of the English gun trade. They are I think they are the most affordable British built shotgun. So they are very good value. They're available. They are available. You can phone them up and have one made. And there's a bit of a lead time, but it's not a year's waiting list, it's a month's waiting list, which is pretty good. And desirable. It's a good looking gun. When I say desirable, I mean, is it actually something you'd want to own? Yeah, it is. Like, it's a nice gun. They're a good looking gun. They shoot well. Very nice. There you go. What we're going to put on there? A Longthorn. Just put Longthorn. Everyone knows they do a lot of different models. And when talking about Longthorn, we're really talking about their side lock shotgun. Really. The side lock over and under. They do side by sides now and all sorts of others, but that is the one we're talking about. What else has been made since the year 2000? Probably the Hatsan Escort is on the list. And to be fair, the Hatsan Escort is a copy of some other things, but it weighs so heavily in these other camps that a Hatsan Escort, I mean, it pays all semi-automatics. There's only, a bit like over and unders, there's only so many ways to make an over and under that actually works. The Hatsan is inspired by others, yeah, but same. They aren't the same as others. So, a Hatsan Escort Magnum. Is it strong? Yeah. Yeah, it's relatively strong. Are they reliable? Yes, as long as you clean Hatsan Escorts. And this could be Hatsan Armsan. I'm going to give them both because they're both fill very similar holes. In fact, I think I'm going to bang them straight over the other side already. They are extremely good value, you know. In terms of attainability, availability and value, those guns are probably up there. £300 to go and buy a gun. That is a way of getting everybody who wants to get into shooting a good, solid, reliable gun that shoots relatively well for £300 or £400. That is a real bargain. Yeah, and they do some nicer models that are maybe worth investing in, but also maybe not. Are they desirable? That is a matter of perspective. Yes. Who doesn't want a semi-automatic that you can abuse and not have to have too much emotional bondage with. Yeah, the sand guns are on the list next to a long Thorn for 25k and a 694 for $3,000. Who would have thought? The sand guns. Beretta A400, way too much homage to guns that were in the 1980s. It's been a slow development to get to that point. Benelli M2, inspired by M1s, you know, way before the year 2000. Inspired by other guns with rotating bolt heads from way before that point as well. Winchester SX3s, the Winchester semi-automatics, most of these other new semi-automatics all have roots well before the year 2000 and as such pay too much homage to them. Blaser F3. The Blaser F3 was post the year 2000, fairly confident. They have good longevity. They do require update parts and so on and so forth, and maybe not as much longevity as some other guns out there, but they are good, solid guns. They do take some abuse. They are not like high on the value list, and we should probably score these out. We'll score these out once we've actually made a list. They are available, they are attainable, and they're desirable. An F3 is a good looking gun. Some of the high grade F3s are, you know, exceptional looking guns. They have the straight drive hammers. That is not a new thing, but it is, you know, it's a new thing, yeah. And the engineer's guns. And there's clearly actually more of them on this list than anything else. All right, next. The Volt 500, the Krell Volt 500 is that electric shotgun. It has everything about post 2 years 2000. It is very modern to have electrics in guns. Air guns have had it for, what, 15 years. Now shotguns can have it, although none were ever brought into the country. So they fail on the availability, attainability list, and probably on the longevity list. But on the modern category, they're way up there. Value-wise, it's a Krell, so it's not going to be expensive, and I think they're unbelievably desirable. Who wouldn't want to have one? It's cool. The 828U goes on the list as well. It is a new style of shotgun, unlike most things from the past. We're not talking about longevity. They are relatively good value, and to be fair, the longevity since the sort of first years has gone way up, so their reliability is higher. Strength-wise, I don't think they are the strongest guns out there, but you're not buying a super lightweight over and under to be strong. They are available, they're attainable, and to many they are desirable. The best bit about videos like this, by the way, is that people comment with all the things that I miss, so I don't feel too bad. So please, at this point, I should say before the end of the video, if I've missed anything blaringly obvious that fits this silly game, I'd love for you to chuck it in the comments. Anyway, one that almost gets on the list would be the 525 SL. Sticking a laminate stock on a gun, that's pretty cool. That's pretty modern. I like that. But it doesn't go in because actually the entire action is homage bound. But it does tick every other box. So it's a definite honorable mention. There's obvious things that should almost definitely be on the list, but don't play the rules. Parazzis, the Parazzi High-Tech, but you know, it's a case of it's on a linear graph of development from all the other Parazzis, so it's not new. There's too much of that, but it's definitely in the, you know, quite probably, certainly the MX-8 is in the best top 5 modern shotguns of all time. Krieghoff have very much have definitely made their stamp, and the K80 should probably be in the top 5 modern shotguns, but it does not fit the game. The Breeder Zenith fits. It's made from 2000 onward. There's not really any homage to anything. Yildiz Pro Sport, you know, in fact, all of the Turkish knockoffs deserve a joke. Sorry, they're not a joke. The Turkish, it's a Freudian slip. All the Turkish knockoffs deserve a mention. You know, they have made high value, highly available, highly attainable guns that look and feel similar. Most of them are outright copies of the big ones, the P guns and the K guns and the 686s and the 525s, and they're all inspired and give everyone the chance to own a bit. But yeah, they are very much bound by that rule down there. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Who is us? So if you want to support us and you can be part of our sponsorship program, you can become a channel member. There's a button down there that says join, click it, there's a link in the description, and you can support our channel. You get loads of free content, you get members exclusive videos. It's great, and you get to support us in the work we do, which I hope you enjoy, which is why you're watching. Anyway, let's carry on. So using the Vlad matrix of value, longevity, availability, and desirability, we're going to score all of these guns out of 10 in each of those things. Value, a 694 value-wise, it's like a 6, maybe. In the grand scheme of guns, not new guns, let's give it maybe a 6, maybe a 7. I really like the 694. Longevity, it's a Beretta, so quite probably let's give that a 10. Unless anyone has anything else to say about a 694. It's basically a beefed up 692. There's nothing that could really be wrong with that. And if you think that the 694 is unreliable, I'd hate to think what you think of everything else on that list. Attainability, 10. I mean, are we going to score these high? This is a difficult one, isn't it? Because a 694 attainability is you just pick up the phone and it's there for you. Desirability, probably a 6. I'm going to give it a 6, or else that's a hard thing. Well, let's give it a 6. People sit at home dreaming of night, they're probably not dreaming of a 694. They might be. Maybe, I mean, a lot of people probably are. But I'd question that they need to go and look at way more desirable guns. It's a bit like, liking a 694 is a bit like dreaming of a BMW 335D, going, oh, it's a fast, economical car that's going to be really good. No, there's no passion in that gun there, is there? Like, you dream of Ferraris. And if you don't dream of Ferraris and you dream of 335D BMWs. Long-thorn, value. To be fair, it's a real hard thing. I think they represent great value. It's a hand-built British gun. A hand-built, a machine-built, hand-finished, fully made in England gun with some of the best technology of anything. Fully built to your spec. For 25 grand, 25 grand is a lot of money, but it is good value. So I would say their value is probably up at this 7 mark. Anyway, longevity, strength, they are not as reliable as a 694 would be. They just, a side lock inherently can't be. There's too many fine working parts by comparison to that Beretta, which is such a tried and tested action. 9, maybe strength and reliability should have been 2 separate categories. But that would have been Zad, not Vlad, and that would have been hard to pronounce. Availability, probably an 8. Desirability, probably a 10. I mean, that is the sort of thing that people should, at the very least, be dreaming of. The sand guns, value, 10. It's 300-400 quid. 300 or 400 quid. Longevity, 7. Probably a 7. Availability, 10. They're everywhere. They're produced so mass-produced that kind of takes a little bit away from the desirability. Unfortunately, the desirability realistically is like a 4. Realistically. I'm not really sure what I'm gauging these against. We probably should have picked a gun that was really intelligent and probably should have made a different matrix. Too late. The F3 value, I don't think the F3 represents great value for money. I think it's a lovely, lovely gun, but I do not think that it is great value. And this is a really bent list, but I'm going to put it as a 6 because I think it is less good value than a 694 new. You know, it's more money. So there you go. Longevity, probably an 8. I mean, and they're really reliable and really longevitous. However, I am aware that some of the original ones have had to have like update parts and things change, and as such that does take away from the reliability or at least maintenance side. I think I'm gonna give it an 8. If you don't like that, sorry. Availability, it's in that 10 bracket. Probably a 9. Depends which model you go for. Probably a 10. There's bastard loads of them about. They're common as muck. And desirability, it's just probably the same as a 694. It might be a little bit more than a 694. It probably was more than a 694. Worlds change. It's getting the same as a 694. Well, that's not a good score. I mean, it's not the worst score. The Volt 500. Yeah. The gun that never came to pass. I was looking forward to going back to Ewa this year just so we could see it, and it's been cancelled. 2 years in a row.
To see what you're going to put here.
Value.
500 quid?
Guesstimate was like 600 quid, wasn't it? It was supposed to be a dirt cheap Turkish gun. And as such, the value is probably up there with other Turks at a 9 or a 10. I mean, let's say it's an electric shotgun. You'd pay £1,000 for an iPhone. It's good value. Have a 10. Longevity and strength. Probably not high. Probably a 5. Let's say 5. That first model wasn't waterproof. That in itself is shocking. Availability, 1. Because there are none. There are none. There has been none. They probably dropped it when they realised that the longevity was a 1 as well. Desirability, 10. Maybe 50. We all want something we can't have. They get 50 honorary points and maybe 10 real ones. Maybe less. Maybe less. Who knows? The Benelli 828U. This is a crap set of rules. I'm so sorry. Value, if you've stuck around this long anyway, value, it sits at about that. It's good value. It's 1,700 quid for a lightweight gun that does all it does. It's probably the cheapest lightweight gun that handles like it does out there, and as such probably deserves an 8. It's got some skewed values on this list, clearly. That's probably more like cheapnessy value versus overall value, because technically the Longthorn should be an 8, because it sits at similar categories. In fact, the Longthorn should probably be a 9. I probably should have just thought this through. That would have been the wiser option, Sash? It's all falling apart. The whole thing fell apart when I decided to make a grid with all the scores on. Longevity of an 828U? 7. Probably a 7. I mean, if we mix modern guns that are reliable versus the first ones that had issues, it's a 7. Availability, it's a 10. Desirability, it's a 6. Zenith. Value, at what they are, represents good value. You know, they compete with guns that are higher in price than them. So they probably get like an 8. Longevity, probably like a 7. They again, in their first run, they had issues in their first run. Everyone has issues in their first run. So does Benelli 828U. They get a 7. I mean, and both of those should probably be 8s. But I'm bitter, and it's my game. Availability, 10. And desirability, I think the Zenith actually, as a sporter goes, has such a modern look to it. The desirability is probably higher than something like a 694, only based on looks. Maybe the market for 694s is bigger, as is F3s. So it probably should get a 6 as well. It's a really skewed game, isn't it? I didn't really think this through. Anyway, let me do some maths. It will be no surprise to you that the Volt 500 won with a score of 66. The next in line was a 36. That's a lie. The next in line was technically a 35. 35 from Longthorn, 33 with a 694. Then everything else was 31, apart from the Volt that was 66. Or 26. That's not very interesting, is it? Everything is average apart from the Volt, because, unsurprisingly, emotion plays a huge choice in what you think is best. And that gun made an impression. And that is very much the future. It's basically a pulse rifle. This is where someone should say, I should probably put in one of those box mag, modern things with the stuff. I'm alright. They probably paid too much homage to stuff that was probably, if it was an AK, well before 2000. Well, that was fun. Thanks for putting up with us, guys. I've had a great day. Who wants to see another list with someone saying, well, the best guns are Beretta 686, the Browning 525, the Perazzi, and the Krieghoff, and yes, everything else sucks. Have a good day.